right, so here we go. So we're live. We're on the record here. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'm Bren, and this is a Garden Chat Live. I am so excited and totally honored. I have Dr. Allan in the house. How you doing, Allan?
I am doing terrific, Bren. I can hardly stand myself. It's so much fun here.
It was fun today. This is a cool
fun.
This is a cool experience. A very cool experience. So if you're joining us live and you're new in the blab, I'm just going to invite you to go ahead and ask questions on the side if you have any questions about gardening. Allan's grown it all, haven't you, for the most part, legally?
Yeah. The ones that I'm not supposed to have grown, I won't really discuss.
Okay.
But, I've tried to grow everything and kill my fair share. So, no, it's pretty good.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's what I like about you, because I like, which we could talk about your app in a little bit here, but I like your philosophy, is that what you want to call it? You encourage everybody to just grow it. If you kill it, who cares? You can buy more.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when I talk to groups of people, particularly gardeners who just, really enjoy what they do, and as I mentioned today, people mostly garden because of the therapy it gets them. I mean, people like dirt under their fingernails. Yeah. And so, we don't want to kill things. We really don't. We want to have things beautiful. But if something should pass away, we say a little prayer, we give it a burial, and then we go see what else we can put in its place. There's a ton of plants out there, and they're all fun to try.
Yeah. A little burial, like in the compost pile,
perhaps. A little composting, you bet, man. Let's get it back to nature.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So, earlier, actually, people can connect with the podcast. We did a short little podcast, and I learned a couple of new things about you. I thought you've been gardening forever, but you said you just kind of just started. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How long have you been gardening?
I'm an old guy, so I didn't just start, but I certainly didn't have one of those mothers that patted people on the head and little grandmas that took them around the corn patch and gave them all this, great wonder of plants. We didn't have any of that, man. We were lucky if we cut the grass. My brother and I we played football or baseball on the grass. That was its only use. So as far as gardening, we never did anything. I didn't do anything until really, quite truthfully, after I was married and had kids, and we had a little place finally in Montreal, and we put some plants in, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah, that's funny, because you actually mentioned that most people really, you see them diving into gardening once they have a home or, a place to do it, right?
Well, we I'm very much involved in the horticulture industry, whatever that is. But the fact is, it's a huge industry, and we've been gnashing our teeth forever about young people, whatever that means. Truly, I mean, your mother is a young person, and my daughter is an old person. It's a matter of what you really love. And but we've been gnashing our teeth about young people. Let them grow up. Let them grow up. They're going to do this if they like it. And we all want something pleasant in front of our house. We all want to make our place prettier, but we don't have to become insane gardeners to do it. And so that's it. It'll happen. It'll happen.
You're right. So you told me earlier you didn't really start studying horticulture till about, I think you said 15 years ago, maybe?
No, I've been studying I've been doing horticulture for, as all of my adult life. Okay, whatever that means. I just turned, really, I'm not sure anybody agrees yet that I've reached that point. But I was a high school teacher after I graduated from college in McGill University in Montreal, and became a high school teacher, and I really enjoyed it. I just love sharing stuff and sharing math and biology to high school kids. That's the true meaning of teaching, not what I do at the university where I, share information with those who want to hear it. But so I did that for quite a while. And then I finally, after doing a little landscaping on the side in the summertime, as teachers do, I decided it was time to do some things. And so I wrote a little book about how I got to where I am. And, in Montreal, which is in a province of Quebec, there are some political things happening too. So, we ended up back at school again, 2 kids and no money.
It happens.
I better pass those classes, my wife said.
I know, right?
So anyway, that's how we kind of, that's how, as I mentioned before, the great expression from Yogi Berra that when the path forks, take it. And essentially every single person that I talk to has, whether they've known they've lived that philosophy, they have. Paths come and you take it and don't look back and away you go.
Yeah.
Whoever thought we'd be doing this?
Yeah, right. I'm sure. I bet many of the people in the chat room, they probably didn't start out gardening,
It's just not gardening. It's what you do, and gardening is sort of makes your life a little bit more full. That's all.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Yeah.
So, if you happen to be in the chat room, please, if you have any questions for the doctor, please ask away here. Anything. It's gardening season. We're busy now. I'm up in Zone 5B, and you're down in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm in North Georgia. So it's a bit different. But remember that I'm an old Montreal boy, so you can't put this ice and snow over me.
I know, right?
I do know what you're talking about.
Did you see we had snow in April?
No, I know you did.
It was crazy. Like, it was beautiful, but it was crazy.
No, it was very long winter. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And growing up in those conditions, in that sort of 6 months was enough. It was
right.
time to look elsewhere.
Yeah. And now it's so dry up here. I'm tired of watering. So this is great. We have a question in the chat room. Actually, Lisa, do you want to try to come in and come on live? You're more than welcome. I know you're familiar with how to click in a seat, and I know Lisa, Houseplant Guru, can be found on Allan's app that you created.
Lisa's fabulous. She helps me with the houseplant section, and the app has sort of expanded to so many different kinds of plants, and I just need help. And so I asked Lisa if she would help. She did, and we are very fortunate to have her with us.
Very cool. So we'll see what happens here. Hey, there she is.
It did work.
There she is.
I wasn't sure what. I'm up here in the frozen north up here. It's actually cold. I can't even believe it.
Very cool.
I'm sitting outside at Mom's house.
How far north are you?
Oh, that might be pushing it. I didn't hear. I didn't quite hear that one. Did you?
It's nice to see you, Allan. I'm in.
Right.
Mid-Michigan. So.
No, Lisa, I don't think there we go. Yeah, I don't think that connection's quite, and that's okay.
Anyway, listen, everybody who happens to be listening one way or the other, if you have any questions on houseplants, her website, Houseplant Guru, it's terrific. And if you go into the app and you're interested in, what I'm writing about, whether it's an African violet or a Chinese evergreen or whatever, I'm going to take you to Lisa as well. So she's terrific.
That's pretty cool. So Lisa did ask, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for trying. I know it's hard. It's hard, believe me. I've been through it all, I'm sure. So she's asking, when did you get your first houseplant, Allan? Are you into houseplants?
Are you kidding me? Look, I did my teeth on houseplants. In fact, what we call interior plants. My first studies were on plants for office buildings. And I actually, when I was in school, wrote a little paper for the Canadian government on trying to green up their buildings. So yeah, and then of course, haven't we all managed to butcher, abuse, and somehow just do terrible things to houseplants in our dorms or in our houses? So yeah, I really have had houseplants for many years.
Yeah,
and I still do. I have African violets and Christmas cacti and green things as well. It's cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead. Let's talk about your book. You're an author, and it's kind of fun. I don't know if you noticed as well. We've got a question in the chat room for Lisa, so hopefully Lisa can answer it in there, and I can share that with you in a bit. But in the meantime, let's have you share about your books. Tell us about when did you first start writing books?
Oh, I've been writing. I enjoy writing. Now, this is a good thing because it is writing is not hard if you like it, but it's absolutely a nightmare if you don't. So, it seems if you go to a library or a bookstore, everybody and his brother writes a book. But then ask yourself, how many friends do you know that have written books? And it really is a difficult job. And I say that not because I say it's difficult brain-wise, just there's a saying that I always use, as easy is the art of beginning. Difficult is the art of finishing. And that's what a book is all about. It just takes a long time because it's there's a lot to go into it. But nevertheless, I started writing my first book, I guess, when I was in, at Michigan State University, in fact, where I was doing research in the new plant, brand new plant, by the way, called the seed geranium at the time. Geraniums from seed. All those geraniums prior to that were from cuttings. And so I did a little book for the greenhouse industry.
I got to ask you about that. I never understood that when I worked in the greenhouse. The ones that were from cutting were always so much bigger than the ones from seed. And I didn't quite, can you explain like what's going on with that?
Well, the major difference, and again, without getting into too much detail, is that if you're using seed, you're not doing any diseases. The problem with cuttings is that if a cutting gets a disease, man, oh man, the stock plants gets a disease, it's bad. So when you start with seed, you're starting clean. And today, the seed stuff actually is pretty big too. But the difference is the cutting stuff have double flowers, the singles, the seed stuff have single flowers. So and that's why the flowers look bigger with the cuttings.
Okay. Yeah. So most of the time, if you're at a garden center and maybe you're getting a little, I call it a 6-pack, a 606, right? Those are probably from seed.
Could very well be. And the other thing is seed is less expensive. So if you're going to the box store, you're probably getting seed stuff. And some of them are good. They don't quite perform as well as some of the big cutting types, but there's some good things.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So if someone out there is new they want to write a book, whether it be gardening, food, farm, whatever, do you have any advice for that new author? Yeah.
I mean, there's no manual for writing a book. Like there's no manual for parenting. I mean, truly, you do your best you can to. The manual should say, if there was one, that you have to want to do this without any ideas that you're going to make any money. And I say that. We'd all like to make money. We all like to be a best-selling author, and we like to be in the New York Times best-selling list. But we're talking horticulture here, gang. We're talking gardening. And there are very, very few authors in gardening that are making much money. I hope they're all making money, but nobody's getting rich. So that's the first thing. That look forward to doing it and be so proud of what you've done. And if you are and you do a good job, people will get this book. But if somebody asks you for advice, it is write 1 hour a day. That's all. 1 hour. If you write 1 hour a day, and you can write 5 hours a day if you want, write 1 hour a day, you will get it done. That seems really simple. It really is not. It really isn't. I mean, I say that having done it, and I know many people who have, and I think anybody who has written a book, whether it's a 100-page book or a 1,000-page book, the effort is the same. You start like crazy, and then, boy, it gets to be slogging along after a while. But if you are. I'd like to think that all my books are just like, ooh.
What book took you the longest?
Oh, my.
Or shouldn't I ask that?
Oh, no, I'm really proud of some of I've got a lot of good books for gardeners and for your reference books. And my reference book on perennials, the herbaceous perennial plants, it's the 3rd edition. It's over 1,000 pages. It is, if there is such a thing as a book legacy, I guess that'll be it. And I'm going to do a 4th edition. But that is such a huge book because it is sort of all those things you want to know but didn't want to ask, and yet it's like any book, which is the really cool thing about an app. Like any book, it goes out of, it gets out of date very quickly. But still, there's lots of things in there that I'm very proud of, and that people are still buying it, and it's great.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one that's kind of took me the longest, to be sure.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. I know it's always in the front at the Michigan show and all that. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I try to do books. I try to do books for gardeners and for my daughters and for people like our audience who like this stuff. like to have pictures as well. So my Armitage's garden perennials and all those other things, they're more of what I call the plant 101 versus the plant 401, but they're all there.
Very cool. Hey, maybe Lisa's in the chat room. Can you share a link to Allan's website? If you can. I know she's on her computer too, I believe. And you have a page on there. It's got all your books on there. People can order or whatnot. That's great information, because I know there's a couple. I get a lot of people asking, I want to write a book. What do I do? I'm like, I don't know. I've never read a book before. I know lots of authors, though, so we can ask you.
Just keep the expectations low and the pride high. That will then get it done. And just get at it.
Someday. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, it is someday. Well, and again, there's those people, and I'll say this as well to that person out there who just really wants to do this and always finds a reason not to. And I simply say, in 1 year from today, you're going to be 1 year older. You are. You're not going to think about it. You're going to be 1 year older.
Yeah.
So maybe, what do you want to do? Maybe you'll have something to do to say you've done. And that sort of kicks them in the rear end, and away they go.
Yeah. Right.
But it's not for everybody. I guarantee it is not for everybody.
I know. I don't know how you find time to do all that you do. And there we go. There's a live link there. If you're joining us live, please click over to Allan's site, check it out. I would assume everyone pretty much, if they've been to a garden center or a garden show or an event at a university, they've probably seen you. You get around.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I do it. Oh, by the way, in case people who are on here do not recognize me, because really I am in incognito now. Okay, now here I am. So this is the hat that's a whole lot more famous than the person underneath it, and it's quite interesting about this whole hat thing. But that's the title of that new book. It's not just about that. But anyway,
is there a story behind that, or it's just to protect with sun?
Oh well, it is to protect, but it's the best one. It's called a Tilly hat, and it just keeps the sun off me, and it's probably saved my life because I'm in the sun way too much. Yeah. And so anyway, it's cool. And again, not that if anybody gets that book called "It's Not Just About the Hat," they can read all about how all these crazy things came to be. And to answer your question, I am fortunate. I'm asked to speak here and there, and to do a little consulting here and there. So yeah, you'll probably see me, and I hope that the state shows and all that. I enjoy really going over wherever I am in this country or this world, and it's great fun.
I love that. I think the first time I saw you was actually online, and because I'm really big in supporting the garden centers as well, just like you are. And that was a video. I had seen you were sharing some really great things about being in a garden center.
Right. That's with we're doing work with a perennial farm, and I do a lot of videos. In fact, I have a whole YouTube channel, Brand. It's really embarrassing. But I mean, I got all these crazy plants on there. I mean, I just can't help myself. But nevertheless, I don't know if anybody looks at them, but they're out there. Heck, I've even got a dancing video on YouTube. So just, that can really keep you happy. But
I'm going to have to check your page out now.
It's crazy. But nevertheless, I think that,
Please send me the link.
It's on my website. Believe me, I'm so used to being embarrassed that doesn't matter. But we just have a good time. And that's the whole thing with gardening and the whole thing about what we do. And whether it's writing a book or giving a talk or listening to somebody else, this isn't life or death. It's not brain surgery. It's gardening. Yeah. Let's just have fun.
I love that.
It's just.
I love that. We talked about that a little bit earlier. And, I see a lot of that. I'm kind of like that. I mean, even though I get around, I'm on a lot of garden sites.
Oh, yes, you are too. Absolutely.
But I'm not a master gardener or anything. If I can get my hands on it, I'm going to grow it. I want to grow it, and that you're like that.
Well, yeah, and again, I don't want to get anybody upset because, well, I do anyway, but I love this design stuff. I really love it, but I can't do it. I literally cannot do it because, like you, Brent, I'm sure, I have a plant in one hand and a trout in the other, trying to find a place to put the sucker. And the design has just gone down the tubes, so I don't even try. I do know, however, that my own garden And again, for anybody who is any rhyme or reason being intimidated by gardening, your garden is whatever you make it to be. It doesn't matter if your neighbors like it or not. And if you've got one pot on your porch and that's your garden and you just caress and kiss that thing, good for you. Yeah. But it's gardening. And you know, that's the thing. We garden for ourselves. We don't garden for anybody else. You know, we'll cut the grass, I guess. That'd be nice.
I love that.
So your neighbors like it, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And so Maggie's in the chat room here, and she says, "Woo, it's not just me." So she gardens like that too. Just, I love it.
Oh, I think a lot of us do. And you know, it's like this botanical name thing. You know, people are literally well, first of all, whether you know a botanical name, it does not matter. It has nothing to do with your joy of gardening. None. However, many of us like to know the botanical names or whatever, and then we're afraid to pronounce them. You know? I mean, is it clematis or clematis? Who gives a flip? It just doesn't matter. So the Armitage rule of botanical pronunciation is get the syllables in the right order and fire away. And it is not something that you need to write a thesis on. It's just amazing how people are so intimidated about this stuff.
I love that. Do you have anything specific you're growing right now that you're excited about? Like, do you do any vegetables or herbs or anything?
I do. Well, I got a tiny garden. I have to tell you now. Right. I would love everybody to come and visit me. It's in the beautiful town of Athens, Georgia. It's a fabulous place. But I have a tiny garden. I used to have this big garden, and then we downsized. That's for another day, how one does that. But we downsized. And the garden is a downsized garden. It literally is a suburban garden, you know, a 60 by 100 or whatever. But it is so full. And yes, I've got tomatoes on my deck. You see, God, I'm going to just blab away too much here.
I know.
You know, people ask me all the time, and I give a lot of speaking engagements about what I see. And what I see is the garden of tomorrow, if not today, is the deck. Mm-hmm. Okay? The garden of tomorrow for your kids, the grandkids, it's going to be the deck, the barbecue, wherever the Wi-Fi signal goes. So I have a lot of stuff on the deck, I mean, including tomatoes that have been bred for patio. Mm-hmm. I have, I always have lettuce in the cool months. But I have such a small amount of space. And then, of course, I got a ton of flowers, and I got herbs. I got my parsley and my basil, and I got my thyme all over the place. I whether I eat it or not, I don't even care. I do it for that whole foodscaping thing. Mm-hmm. Pretty plants that you also eat if you wish. Yeah. It works, I guess.
I love that.
Works for me.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Bringing up the vegetables and patios. You actually shared a video with me from spring trials.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
Yeah, that was awesome. And so I'm actually trialing one of those. It's like 2 tomatoes in one container.
Yeah, they put the tomatoes in so that they kind of go with each other. One's a cherry tomato, one's a slicing tomato, but they flower more or less the same time and get fruit more or less the same time. But it's good. So you just stick that thing and it's already done for you, and you got 2 tomatoes in a pot.
Yeah, very cool.
You know, there's vegetables and there's tomatoes, so I think that's the way it is.
Yeah. So just because we're streaming this live, I just want to welcome everybody again to this blab. We're having a little garden chat here with Dr. Allan Armitage. And this is great. If you have any questions about gardening, this is the man you want to ask this guy. He knows it all, right? You do.
Yeah. I know very little, but
So Maggie Groves is in the chat room, and she asks if there's any new plants that you're excited about right now. Like, what comes to mind?
Okay, well, what comes?
Okay, maybe two.
There's so many, but I don't want to. I don't know, Maggie, where you garden, but for instance, there's a new black leaf astilbe out there called Chocolate Shogun. And it has it's purple black foliage. If you do astilbes, I don't know if you do or not. Mm-hmm. But I've even got it in my garden, and astilbes don't do terribly well in the south. But it's cool. Now, the flowers aren't as pretty as some of the others, but it's a wonderful plant. I love, if I have to choose, you shouldn't have asked this, Maggie.
Maryland, so she
Maryland's fine. Well, you can do it if you're not, unless you're on the coast. But you can do it, do with stilbees, and you know better than I whether you can. Yeah. A clematis, okay? People are into vines. I love vines. Got a whole book on vines that I think are just the coolest things. And but everybody asks me about clematis. Okay, it's the most popular vine out there. I mean, I know there's climbing hydrangeas and there's climbing roses and this, that, and the other thing, but there's one called Rooguchi. Okay, now it's not really new, but it is the best. Rooguchi, Rooguchi. And if you can find that, bang, plant it. It's cool. So anyway, I could go on forever, but my lilies are. I'm just so excited about lilies. Too much stuff.
That's a cool name. We need to find a picture of that. How do you say it? Rooguchi? Like
Rooguchi, Rooguchi.
Sounds Italian.
Yeah, well, it's got small pendulous blue flowers, and it just flowers forever.
Very
and
cool.
Doesn't get any disease that I'm aware of. I mean, I could send you a picture, but you probably got it somewhere. Anyway, if you do online, you can find it.
Have you seen that one in the garden center yet, or is it?
Oh yeah, it's there, absolutely.
There? Okay.
And the thing about vines is most garden centers, and again, it's tough for a garden center to have all these plants because people have to buy them, and so so many of us, I should say so many of everybody who go to the box stores. We pick up our little petunias and stuff there. So we're hoping that the IGC or the Independent Garden Center is wanting to serve you with something better service, better plant, better everything. And so the clematis is a plant they would carry, but you're not going to see it in the box store very much, at least not this one. And or online. And if you go on my app, it has a place in which you can buy the vines. It links you right to a terrific grower of vines. And he has these things for sure.
Okay, very cool. Caleb actually shared a link in the chat room there. I tried to pin it, but it for some reason it's not coming up on there. But it's at gardenvines.com. So if you just put that,
that's the website I work with on the app. That's right. Called Brushwood.
Let's talk about the app. I'll try to pull up a picture that I just saved in there. And if you guys are joining us, please, like Caleb, or if anybody actually wants to come in the chat room too and talk, it'd be great to have you.
Well, look at Caleb. Really knows what he's talking about. He says it's good, and he's right.
He's a pretty cool dude. You need to connect with him.
Well, and if we're doing clematis, I'll just give you the other one that everybody does know very well, called Princess Di. Or Lady Di, and it's a Texensis type, a Texas clematis. So it's really heat tolerant. Grows well for you too, Bryn. But it's red, and I love growing these things through shrubs and through trees. So that's that. We think we run out of space all the time, but we've got a lot of space. We just have to understand that we have to go up sometimes and not just out.
Yeah, I wonder why they chose red for Princess Diana.
I don't know.
I know. Here's that last flower.
There's your Gucci right there.
Okay. Took me a minute, but I found it.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful?
It is. It's pretty
cool.
It's
been flowering for me for months, and it comes and goes, and it's easy. And if it dies back, big deal. It'll come back again next year. That's
cool. Yeah, that purple probably really pops.
Yeah, it does. It does. And not that I know anything about design, but I like the plant.
Oh, come on. So, let's talk about that app. I know we keep spinning off. I'm bad about that.
You're with me. I'm always
so excited, right? Yeah. Actually, Caleb in the chat room too, he did say that it's been years. He did actually meet you at PPA 2009.
There we go.
Wow. Caleb, you must have been in high school. He looks so young. Yeah, but I
just graduated, that's all.
Yeah, he's probably in junior high that day or something.
There you go.
Very cool. So how long has the app been out?
Well, I started the app probably 3 years ago. I don't know, give or take. It seems like 100 years ago, but it's all the things I put in it. But I want to say 3, maybe more, but it started with a company. It was doing fine, but it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I had to change everything, and there was almost a whole 8 months or so where nothing was happening, because the really cool thing about an app is that I can upgrade it every day, every week, every month. I can add things to it. In fact, with Lisa on the houseplants, we just added one just last week.
Really?
And so, and I add perennials, or I'll add something about pollinators, or I'll add something about whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that's cool. But but it's been around, yeah, we got 3-4 years, but only in the last year has it really been flying. Because I work with garden centers so that, they can get listed. So regardless of where Caleb or Maggie or Lisa or you or anybody lives, if they get that app and they go to the menu and they push garden centers, the garden centers around them that are smart enough to be on the app will come right up, and they'll have their website, their phone number, and Google Maps will take you there. So it's really, really cool.
That's a great service.
So let's support the local garden centers. And they say, well, gosh, how do I find them? Bang, it's in your pocket. It's quite amazing. So that part of the app has really been fun, and putting all these plants on. And if you go on there, there's a ton of plants on there. And if you go to the menu and hit plants, and it says annuals and perennials and cut flowers and house plants and herbs and vegetables, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff on there.
It's beautiful. Every time I click on it, I'm inspired to.
Well, good. I'm hoping that people will actually take it to the garden center with them, and because I have on there with every plant my top choices.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot more in depth than what you're going to find on, just clicking on a Google.
That'd be great. Actually, that's a great.
My top choices are ones that I've seen around the country. They're not just my top choice for somewhere in Georgia or in Michigan. And many of the garden centers will have a lot of these. And if they don't, big deal. I'll have something better. But I like to see people take the app into the garden center. And of course, the garden centers are also using it for their own staff. Yeah. So the staff can learn it.
Actually, that's great. And that's great advice for anybody listening. If you're at one of your garden centers, pull that app up and show them, because they'll love you. I mean, seriously, I've worked in the garden center, and I spent a lot of time helping garden centers locally in Ohio, Michigan, and so on, right? And, they don't have time. But if you could tell them, oh my gosh, just even if they could just put a little sign for their followers.
Well, the cool thing is that we know, and I say this from an industry point of view, an educated customer spends more money. Okay, they may spend a little more time asking more questions, but they're going to buy something. Somebody who is scared, first of all, hardly go into the garden centers, and secondly, they'll just buy whatever happens to be a pink or whatever. So I say educated. I'm not educated in the world, but it's just something. It's right there, because we know today that it's not the lack of money. It's not that we are, don't like something. It's a lack of time. It's like you said, and convenience is what it's all about. And that's why I hate to sound like the preacher here, but I'm such a believer in this app, because I think this is what we as a community of gardeners, community of landscapers, designers, garden centers, gosh, it's right there. It's in our pocket. Anyway, so that's. I think people will really enjoy it, and it's my usual bad writing and stuff. So I do jokes whenever I can and stuff like that.
Have you looked at my website?
There we go.
I need an editor sometime. Well, most of the time, but that's another story. Yeah. Anyhow, how about though, if somebody's new to gardening, say somebody's new to growing edibles, right? What would they find on your app? Like, how would that help them?
Okay, the app is designed, and I say it. The app is designed for my daughter. Okay, I love my daughters. They're fabulous. They got kids. They got too many kids, no time. They like this stuff. They don't really know a lot about it. Okay.
Yeah.
When my daughter is calling me about a plant, it's about what plant should I get, Dad, and can you buy it for me? That kind of thing. But so if you go on and look at, I don't know, beans, or you look at tomatoes, or you look at peppers, or you look at any plant, it's going to have essentially, should it be grown? First of all, it's going to say, is it sun or shade? How much water, kind of thing? Does it take a lot? How about the deer? Every single plant on that app has a deer rating from 0 or 1, which means they're really not going to go at it unless they're absolutely truly starving, or a 5, which means they're just going to go in there and they're going to smell it from a mile away, like a hosta, for example. That would be a 4
or roses,
or buds of roses.
That's kind of a given.
So deer are such a huge issue in today's gardening. So whether it's a vegetable or a flower, that's on there too. And then of course, and again, where do you do with it? Where do you plant it? When is it? What is it going to do? And I use a Farmer's Almanac to help me out, so you can go link to that as well. And and then my top choices. And by the way, every flower on here or every vegetable or herb has photographs. So I mean, we all want photographs. So if I'm talking about this great astilbe or tomato, I mean, not that we need to see a picture of a tomato, but nevertheless, if we do, there's probably 1 to 10 pictures, depending on what I'm talking about. And all of those, if you hit them, they go full screen.
There's some beautiful tomatoes out there. In fact, Casey Tomatoes in the house. He's in the chat room.
Well, I love tomatoes. Well, I love all vegetables.
I know.
And by the way, the other thing that's happening, and again, who's a vegetable person?
Casey. Actually, I think everybody in here really does.
Well, we all love vegetables.
Maybe you guys share in the chat room if let's hear.
But can I tell you what I am seeing? Can I tell you what I am seeing happening in vegetables? Now, you may not like this, but this is what I am seeing in the industry. We are breeding for patio vegetables, meaning we're not sticking a Better Boy in a pot and calling it a patio tomato. We are breeding for plants that are compact, strong, with either large fruit, cherry fruit, whatever. And so that's one. We're breeding vegetables because, as I said, I truly believe it, and maybe they're believing me, the garden of tomorrow is a deck. So we're going to put stuff on it. So that's number one. They're also taking these wonderful heirloom tomatoes that we all love, yet they tend not to yield very well. They tend to get a bit of disease, and they're grafting them onto more vigorous and disease-resistant rootstocks. So you can go into good garden centers today and ask for a grafted tomato, and so you'll get your Brandywines, and they'll be big suckers because they're more vigorous. Yeah. So that's the kind of things that are happening. Of course, peppers. There's a ton of things.
Yeah.
And okra and all those other kind of things. There's a lot of things happening with vegetables and with herbs as well. So
love that.
It's as much as, and I've already, believe it or not, because I'm in Georgia, I've already harvested some tomatoes and had my tomato sandwiches, which is to die for.
Still waiting. Still waiting for my first one.
Truly. I mean, if I get a good tomato, you're a successful gardener. That's all there is to it.
Nothing tastes better than one off your patio or out in your garden.
It's just amazing. It's amazing. And I swear, I mean, nobody, well, I should hope so. I mean, so many gardens are smaller today that the 3 acre or the half acre vegetable garden, it's still out there to be sure. But now I'm just happy. I have 3 tomatoes in my garden. That's all I have.
Yeah.
And 2 of them on the deck and 1's in my garden. And that's really all I need, quite truthfully, if I can keep these things going.
Yeah, really. Don't you find if you get the right variety, I mean, you're basically going to harvest what you need for the most part. I mean, they just keep coming.
I'm just not or as my wife, are we big cooks or big tomato freezers? If I see a tomato, I'm going to eat the sucker.
Yeah, right?
Who is that? I mean, it's not like zucchini, it's tomatoes. So, and I love them. And the herb thing has exploded. There's so many fabulous herbs that are both colorful and, of course, culinary. Yeah. And that's also on the app. So, they're just great fun.
That was great advice to take that app and go, if you're at the garden center, because, a lot of mine, garden centers, I find sometimes they'll have the tag with the name, what it is, but it doesn't give you details. So, I mean, you could easily put the name of the plant into your app and get more information.
Well, you can do that. Not every plant is on the app. There's only one of me, but there's a good number of things. And I don't know how to tell people this, but I would, if there's some plant that they wish was on the app, they just need to get in touch with me through the website or whatever. Why don't you have whatever? Yeah. And I'll put it on because, there's a lot of things, of course, I initiate myself. I think I love this plant. I'm going to put it on. But, some things. And there's a lot of weird plants on there, too. We all like weird plants.
That's cool.
There's beanstalk, and there's all these other cool plants on there. And so that's just fun stuff, too.
I like that. I like that too. You're very open-minded because heirlooms are cool, but I grew a lot of actually my heirlooms this year. They're really going to struggle because we've just had some difficult weather, and the hybrid and the grafted, they usually are a winner, right?
Well,
I love that. You're open-minded.
Let's face it. I mean, I love my heirlooms, but I also know that if I want some yield, I'm going to do something that's a bit more disease resistant.
Sure.
But it's sort of like one for me and one for the birds, or one for the chipmunk, and whatever.
Pretty, grow it, right?
I just don't have a lot of space, but what I have, I'll do the best I can.
That's awesome. So, hey, once again, guys, I want to welcome you guys. If you'd like to ask a question, please submit it in the chat room here, or you're more than welcome. Come in, try to take a seat, join the conversation with us. Let's see. So, Casey Tomato asks, is the app tailored toward regional? You should just come in the chat room and ask. That would be handy for annuals shopper. Did you see that?
Okay. Is the app tailored toward regional adaptation? Okay, first of all, the app is global, but certainly the app is United States and Canada. But is it designed for a gardener in Oklahoma City? Yes and no, because it has zones. You can pick any zone you want in there. So there's plants that perennials anyway, for zone 3 to 4, or 3 to 5, and 5, 6, and 7, 8. So you can do those. And the other thing, because I've lived in a cold climate and I live in a warm climate, I'll say this is junk for the South. Or this is really good for the South, but it's a little too cold.
Tell it as it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm too old to be worried about what people think. So really, you can tell if I made my living do this, I'd be under the bridge. But yeah. So to answer your question, is it tailored? Not tailored, but I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem whether you're in Duluth or Dallas. I don't think you're gonna have a problem. But who knows?
Very cool.
It's an app. It's like a book. You like to think that I've got everything in my books that you really want to know, but I guarantee you'll not find something you wish was there.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So.
Yeah, that's cute. Lisa's having a good time. You make her laugh, and you do that in person.
I'm a little worried about Lisa here. She hates deer. She hates lilies. She doesn't grow anything but house plants. Lisa, there is more to life than a house plant. I know that it's hard to reconcile that. But the deer thing is an issue.
It can be an issue. I mean,
I'm
even talking to people in town, and I'm in Northwest Ohio, and they're having problems with the deer, in town. So,
well, I think here's what we have to understand. And again, if you're going to have a garden in the country, or like you say in town, if you're going to have a garden where there's lots of deer, you're going to have a struggle, and we either, as guy I talked to this weekend says, I just do the lead poisoning thing, but we can't do that.
What?
Okay.
Oh, like what?
But we can't do that. So then you can do a fence. We don't want to do fences. So then you say to yourself, well, what can I grow that the deer really aren't going to go? Whether it's a salvia, it's a sage, whether it's verbena, or whether it's something they're really not going to go after. Now, it may not. You really wish you had hostas. Then you spray them. And spraying works. You just got to make sure you do it. Liquid fence or any of this stuff, it works, but it's not something for a 2-acre garden. For a town garden or something, it works. But there's no easy answer. But I don't want anybody to give up either. Yeah. It's just one of our many challenges.
Yeah, just relax.
So are Japanese beetles. We'll somehow survive those too.
Yeah, that's still to come.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know them all.
I know. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, your app can relate to this as well, but you've got a couple of shows coming up that you're going to be at. You're going to be at Cultivate, right? In Columbus, Ohio. Yay! Right,
I'll be there. I hope I'll see you there.
Hopefully.
And on my website it has where I'm going to be. So if anybody wants to, some strange reasons, come and see me. I'll be at the industry shows like Cultivate and the Independent Garden Center show in Chicago. I'll be there, and I'm speaking. I'll be at Penn State in Landisburg, Pennsylvania, where they have the trial gardens. I'm a big trial garden person as well.
Nice.
And so I'll be there speaking. I'll be in Ontario and Niagara on the Niagara Falls, Niagara Lake. I'll be. It's all there. Oh yeah, it is. July, August, September. I'm on the road a fair amount. So, but it's good. I'm very pleased.
Yeah.
You see, all of you people who are looking forward to retirement, if you are fortunate enough to actually save a bit of money and you can retire, I'm retired, but I am busier than ever. I just love it. I retired from the University of Georgia, and I do miss the students, but that's about it. And so I can do all these things, and it's great. I'm very fortunate.
That's pretty cool. I think it's neat. I mean, because you know how to grow up north in Canada.
Yeah.
And that blew me away today when you said you were a Canadian. I was like, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, good zone 4 to 5. I don't know. The thing about north, and people don't understand this. I have a good friend in Quebec City. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go to a really cool town, go to Quebec City. Mm-hmm. But it's zone 3. It's a good zone 3, but it gets snow cover every year. Good snow cover, lots of snow, consistent snow. And they can grow stuff you'd never think it can be grown in zone 3. So I think there's a lot of other these little circumstances that the zones are good guides, but that's all they are.
Yeah, it's a good place to start, right? I mean,
no, it is the place to start. People understand zones, but we always try to push the envelope, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know me. We talked about that earlier with my dome.
So there's a ton of great plants out there. I also want to mention a few things. We talk about herbs a bit and veggies and houseplants. I love them all. And the whole annual thing. Annuals are probably the plant that keeps a lot of these garden centers in business because people love color. Yeah. That is the number one trend and has been like that for years. Color. And green is a color to be sure, but I want color, and thus they take these annuals, and you can say, and gardeners who have been in gardening too long, they say, oh, I don't want an annual. Oh, it's beneath me. But a petunia. Well, their petunias are pretty darn fabulous. Yeah. So that's what's happening. And breeding in annuals are just going through the roof. It's just quite spectacular. Right. And so anyway, I love annuals. I love perennials. I love them all. And I love my shrubs.
I've seen you work in the floor. If people can hook up with you, like say upcoming, we got Cultivate coming up. If you see Allan, you want to walk the floor with him because it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It is good. Well, anyway, it's just. I hope that I'll see a bunch of people. Just what we do. It's what we do.
Great. So once again, guys, if you're in the chat room and you have any questions, we got about 10 minutes here, and then I gotta clear out of here because we got a little Twitter thing going on tonight.
Well, I want to tell you that all of you people who are listening, you're way more technically savvy than I am, and I think it's cool all these things that are happening. As I was telling Brent, I was a high school teacher for years and years. And if I went back to teach high school today, I'd still use chalk on a blackboard. That's just what I do. And but all this is really cool, all this technical stuff. Yeah. It really is.
I know. We both were having fun today when we got Blab to work. It was like, we're like, can you hear me? You can hear me. Yay. Right? That's so fun. So this is a great group of people. Actually, all the gardeners who are sharing online lately, I think they're great people. And I appreciate everybody sharing I learn from everybody every day. I don't know. You learn things too, right, Allan?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how we grow.
Another thing that I just got in, I've been into it for many, many years, but just had some discussions, is cut flowers. Not so much, buying them and all that stuff, but taking flowers from your garden into the house. Mm-hmm. And what is more fun than cutting stuff and going to a friend's house and giving them a bouquet of flowers? And some friends don't know what to do with them. It's like, I didn't know milk actually came from a cow. I didn't know flowers actually came from a garden. But they don't have a vase. They don't have anything, but they do appreciate it. And of course, if you bring them in, it's the same thing. And so on the app, and I just mentioned because people ask me to do this, is I put what you're supposed to do with a cut flower once you cut it. What should you do with the water? How do you make these things last longer? When do you cut them in the morning or the afternoon? Do you cut them in bud or do you cut them fully open? So I have all that stuff too, because I did an awful lot of work and research with cut flowers, and but the work translates very well to the homeowner, and it's one more aspect of bringing a garden in.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, Shannon, who's flying fish in the chat room, said eating them is better. Salad, greens, and foodies.
Eating.
I'm thinking she's talking about the greens because Lisa had mentioned green is the color.
Too, I'm sure, but
some you can.
Eating it stuff is good. And I think green and Lisa said green is the color. Of course, Lisa again. We do like your green, but green is certainly a color, as is purple and as is white. But people do love having those mixtures. They really do.
That's great. That's great advice. And nothing's better than growing something, even a house plant, a little bowl of salad. It's really cool. It's therapeutic, right?
Well, it is that. It is exactly that. And it's nothing to be intimidated with. And, I'm out there in my little garden. And all my little neighbors drive by, and I'm sure they think I'm just crazy. But I like doing it. I don't know. I like picking weeds. I wish there weren't quite so many, but I do. And it's not something that bothers me. But again, I have a small garden, so I can handle it.
Yeah.
It's just, and the other stuff like mixed containers. That's the other huge trend. Everybody wants to put mix of things in a container. And can I give just? We gotta get out of here soon. I know.
You're okay. Go ahead. We're fine.
2 words of advice.
Yes.
So I just gave a talk to a local nursery, and 75 people showed up out of the blue, and it's just all about common sense. So they say, well, gee whiz, I'm having a tough time keeping my baskets alive or my containers looking good. Here's the advice. Number 1, get as large a container or basket as you can afford. As large a basket or container as you can afford. You buy those crappy little green things hanging in the garden center, those crappy little 10-inch green things with begonias coming out that have been watered and fertilized every day in that greenhouse. And you take them home, they are going to die. Okay? Most people simply don't have, not the ability, the patience to get out there and water them every day. So get a big container. And I know it's going to cost you money, but you're going to get so much more pleasure out of it.
Yes.
And that way you put more soil in and get some decent soil. May I add?
That's great advice.
Don't ever dig soil out of the garden and put it in a container. You must get good, and I say good, and there's a lot of definitions of good, but decent potting soil. Yeah. So, but that's the key thing. Get as large a container you can afford, and then just life is so much easier.
Yeah.
So and don't buy fuchsias in Atlanta, Georgia, and don't expect
bad?
The fuchsias don't do well in Atlanta.
Oh,
Georgia.
too hot. Yeah.
And just like you don't buy something that's tropical and expect it to overwinter in Michigan. Just common sense things. You can try. It's great fun to try. But I've tried fuchsias, believe me, but I'm not going to spend a lot of money on them.
Yeah, no. Some things you can't.
To each their own.
Yeah.
To each their own.
So, hopefully, maybe on Twitter, if you get really ambitious, share your garden sometime. I'd love to see how you grow there, if you can.
Well, I have actually been twittering a lot of plants in my garden. I told you, I don't know what I'm doing. So I take a picture and I put it on Twitter. I put a few of those, I don't hashtags, whatever they're called.
We went over hashtags today.
What's that other one called? The @, whatever that does.
The pound sign.
I do, anything that looks good in my garden, I take a picture of, and I say, this is cool. And of course, it probably doesn't reach anybody, but because I don't quite know what I'm doing. But if I take a picture of my garden, I put it on Garden Chat, will that work?
Yes, if you have time tonight. Well, it's probably getting too dark now.
Well, I won't do it tonight, but I take some tomorrow.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll retweet you, and maybe everybody.
I don't know. My lilies are just spectacular.
Are they nice right now?
Yeah, I got Anastasia and another one called Celebration, and they're really cool. But anyway, so there's all sorts of goodies, and I'll be happy to share some of them with you, and you do whatever you want with them.
That's great. This has been fun. Yeah, he said tag it. Casey Tomato said tag it Garden Chat. So
There you
that's
go.
great.
Yeah, I'm just not as smart as you are, Casey. I just can't figure all this stuff out.
That's all fun. This has been really exciting. Thank you, Kayla.
Wait, Lisa says I can use pictures I already have and share them with you. So
yes,
can I do it?
You can if you have them on your phone or wherever. Yeah.
Well, I sort of took them off my phone. But
yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Know where to find you.
And
and that's easy. That's at your website, which is, let's see, help me get it right. It's
the website is simply allanarmitage.net. And it's an ALLAN, armitage.net.
Yes.
And you can see where I'm going. You can see the book. You can see the app. But the app is just so easy to load. You just put my name in Armitage on your App Store or on your Google Play, and Armitage it should come up. If it doesn't, then put the app. By the way, is called Armitage's Greatest Perennials and Annuals. That's what it's called. Okay. So if you just and by the way, it does cost lots of money. $4.99.
Well, apps are hard. Apps are kind of expensive to make. I know I looked into it once. I was like, well, way above my head.
No. I got into this with a big toe, and all of a sudden I was over my head.
Yeah.
But I've done it, and again, it's now I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna make a lot of money on a $4.99 item unless I sell 10 million. So help me out, gang.
Right.
Or
you can join us on Garden Chat tonight. And I'm going to tweet. I'll put the link at the end of this live stream here too, and people can go over and enter. Somebody's going to get your app, so that'll be fun.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I don't know how you do that, but I'll be happy to gift an app to somebody.
I appreciate that. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and close it out here in the live stream. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Allan. Everybody, stop by your website, allanarmitage.net.
Yeah, I will bid you adieu and say thank you, everybody. And life is good when you can play in the dirt. So let's keep having fun. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks.